Viewers, listeners, welcome to another edition of Blighty Talks Bricks. My guest today is someone that I've actually known personally for, I suppose, a short period of time, really. But what I can say is that he fits our criteria. That criteria is somebody that is a lovely human being. This man is definitely that. A top guy, undoubtedly that. He just makes me feel more wholesome every time I spend a little bit of time in his company. He's also our first professional boxer, or I probably should say former boxer. He's a Sky Sports presenter in the world of boxing. He's known in the world of the boxing industry will know this man. And so I'm super excited, and I sent him a text earlier, and I think he's worried now because I don't know, he's probably worrying what I'm going to do, but I'm super excited to spend a little bit of time chatting through some stuff with Gary Shogun Logan. Gary, welcome to Blighty Talks Bricks. How are you, fella?
I'm very good. I'm like Star Wars. I haven't heard that name in a long while. You know?
Well, it's a name that really suits you because I think you just carry it off really well. But more importantly, you're well?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm blessed. Yeah. You know, it's been a tough time. Got a couple of family illnesses. They are getting older. A lot of people in my... We are getting older, and we're... You know, our parents are that age where things are affecting them, you know, all sorts of illnesses, dementia, whatever. And it's something that's close to my heart. I'm seeing it very close up. It's tough for me and my wife, but we're getting through it with God's blessing. But yeah.
Well, I'm going to come on to that kind of conversation in a little while. But before we do that, I always try to find a connection with my guests because they do this out of the goodness of their heart. I appreciate you, like all of the guests that come on here, you're a busy guy. But I try to have a little connection, and there's one or two things. I mean, you know, this is something that when I was a boy at Crown and Manor Boxing, I loved... 11, 12, 13. Yeah. I love what I call the grown-ups coming in. Probably they were only 16 or 17.
Yeah. Seeing the big boys doing
come in
it.
a bit. But they always had scissors. They'd cut it, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, that's what you looked up to, innit? That's what you wanted to be.
Loved it. So I'm wearing this because I'm going to talk to you about your boxing career in a minute. I'm wearing this just in case things go a little bit wrong. I've got a Logan gun.
You got your Logan gun shield.
Just in case you try to hit me, just got your name on it. And also, I've got something which I know is going to kill you.
The red and white.
But red and white.
Well, that's offensive considering it's North London Derby week, first of all. But boots they are quality boots.
And I have actually done a little bit of sparring. They don't look that dirty. But Cole said to me earlier, production manager said, your trainers always look clean. It's not because they're brand new, but I put them in the washing machine.
It's got to be done. Mandatory.
But these are for you. And it's just my way of saying, Gary, thank you for coming on. It's lovely to see you.
Pleasure, man. It's been, we talked about it a while ago. Then obviously life takes over and boxing takes over and arrangements.
Well, I want to talk to you about how did you're a South London boy, should be, well, he's Arsenal really, but we'll leave that to one side. But how did you get into boxing?
Boxing? Oh my gosh. Absolutely loved it. I think I was so fortunate to be brought up in the 70s. So I was born in 68, but I remember sport from a very, very young age. So I remember 1974, I would have only been 5.5. My dad and his mates, my dad used to have his mates around a lot playing dominoes and that. You know, and obviously with men of Caribbean descent, it gets quite vociferous. And I remember them winding him up because it was getting close to Ali and Foreman. And Ali was most people in the world, especially,
I suppose, in terms of sports stars, up there with what we would consider someone like Tiger Woods now. And he was the Tiger Woods of his era, where probably everybody knew him, and even people that weren't into sport knew him. And that's at one point, Ali in the 70s was behind only Elvis Presley and Brezhnev, who was then the Russian president, and Jimmy Carter. War, really?
Yeah, as the most famous, as the most singer. Yeah.
And
the most talked about man in the world.
I mean, I mentioned Sky as we started chatting, but TV coverage was very, very different.
It was different. It's just terrestrial TV. You had your BBC
One.
Or on the radio, you know. So I never got to see the fight live. But one thing, the reason what piqued my interest was, I remember thinking, why is my dad nearly in tears as he's defending how Ali's going to win this fight? Because I think deep down my dad was like so many men. Now I grew up and watched the fight and read about this George Foreman, who was Mike Tyson times 1,000 in his era. I'm telling you that. All these people think Mike Tyson's the most dominant heavyweight ever. No. It's George Foreman. And he knocked out everybody that Ali had struggled against. That's how formidable he was. He knocked out everybody that Ali had struggled against.
And he did it with a pizzazz as well.
Oh, he was just... Ali was just something else.
Float like a butterfly,
sting like a bee. So I remember my dad crying. So I thought, I've got to pay interest. So I remember the next day, my dad was celebrating because Ali's won and he's on the phone. I remember he couldn't stop dialing the phone. It was those phones in the day. And he couldn't stop dialing. He'd ring this guy and this guy would have to shoo him off so he could ring up the next guy. He was basically going through a list of people that he was coating off. Because Ali had won.
He probably had a little thing by his telephone, a little thing he pressed up with all their telephone numbers on. Because we didn't remember him.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't remember him. So then that was it. That sort of got my interest. I thought, what was it about that? What was it about Ali that got Dad? And then get to 1975. I'm growing up now. I'm starting to see Ali in fights. Little do I realise he's past his peak, but he's still the most famous sportsman and one of the most famous men on the planet.
Even today.
So as soon as I could go to the library on my own at the end of Clapham, at the end of Orlando Road, we had Clapham Library, and I just started nicking all the books. I couldn't help it. And I saw an Ali book, and I thought, that's mine.
You just fell in love with boxing.
I fell in love with it.
Of Dad.
Yeah,
because of the noise.
Yeah, and the noise. And then the fact that Ali was so big, he was in the centre of your newspaper or on the front sometimes.
Well, my dad...
Or he'd be the leading article on the back of it. Yeah, he was massive.
My dad went to Highbury when he fought Cooper.
There you go.
Because obviously Dad being an Arsenal fan, but
Wow.
But it was what Ali did without social media, without what we call, not Sky necessarily, but just that.
If he had been around nowadays, I don't even think he could have handled the amount of fame and the amount we would be talking about him every minute of every day. There'd be Muhammad Ali posts every day on social media, every minute of every day. They wouldn't leave him alone.
It'd be too much.
It'd be too much. So in many ways, and he was around for many other reasons socially, from a social perspective, he is what, he was the first black athlete to say, to be bigger than any of his sports.
In my view, he was a bit like going back a Jesse Owens, but a bit like a Martin Luther King in a way. In the sports world.
Yeah, in the sports world.
He united things.
Yeah, incredible.
And
incredible. He went against the US government.
Golf.
Yeah. But I think Tiger was very clever that he never ever affiliated himself with any political party. He never had a political demographic. He never wanted to get involved. He just wanted to be Tiger Woods, golfer, and it just so happens that I've got this magnetism that people are drawn to. I don't even have to say a lot. Because Tiger says more nowadays than what he did in his 20s.
Well, I don't think you could do what he did. I mean, you mentioned Ali. Ali, it would have been too much for him.
Yeah.
And so Tiger had moved on to that.
Incredible.
I don't think Tiger...
none of these big...
Yeah, he didn't tell his wife about them, but he had
you know what I mean? None of these big... There's never been a superstar like him because... He put himself on a political platform. None of them have it. All these guys at the Jordans and all that, none of them. LeBron's come the closest to it, and he's getting vilified in certain sections. He's probably the closest to it. But none of the others, like Tiger Woods or Jordan, they've never ever stepped up where they've said, right, I'm making a stand for someone. And Ali was incredible in that. He literally became a rock star as a result of it. And so... we had him, and I remember having a fight. So you tell me how I got into boxing. Unfortunately, I wanted to box from when I was about 8.
Okay.
My mum said, no son of mine will ever be a boxer. And I was
my dad told me the same when I tried to be it at 12.
So I was crushed. So I never got to do it. But so I used to have lots of fights in the playground. And I
Me
remember,
too. I wasn't very good at winning them either.
but I won this particular fight against, I'll never forget his name. Please forgive me. Colin Anderson, his name was. And we got into a stupid playground fight and all the kids are joshing around. You can't back down, can you? So, but I thought, I'm just going to do him with the jab like what I saw Ali doing. So I just kept running around him and he's running at me in straight lines. I'm going, bing, bing. And all of a sudden he just goes, and he was like looking really great. And all of a sudden he just went, started crying. I'm like, I won. In the next break time, his sister came running after me to beat me up. He had a bigger older sister, and he pulled her off. He said, "No, don't do anything to me."
And you became best pals, did you?
Yeah, he was one of the good friends in school. He was one of my good friends in school. So that was it. But then cut to, I still wasn't allowed to box until I was 13 and a half. And that was ironically only because I got chucked out of the football team for fighting.
Well, obviously there's a bit, the Lord was taking you to where you should be doing.
Yeah.
But maybe do it with the sort of, the rules.
Yeah.
Rather than just...
Mum was fighting against it, but the Lord was saying this geezer's life will be boxing. And
so where did you go? Where was it for you? Because we've touched on this.
You had a boys' club.
A boys' club for me. I was 3 boys' clubs. I boxed for one of them.
Yeah.
But you went straight to a boxing club.
I went straight to the Prince of Wales in Fulton Heath, and Croydon Amateur Boxing Club. Went up there. My brother went up there with me because obviously he's 10 years older, so Mum made sure he escorted me up there, and they put me into spar on the second time. My brother came up. My brother was a really good illustrator, which my son has inherited as well, and I came home with a bit of a sulk on. Mum goes, "What's the matter with him?" And he goes, "Let me draw it for you, Mum."
Did he really?
And he drew a picture of me, scrunched up against the ropes with this kid weighing into me. He's got me with these really skinny legs and boxing boots hanging off my ankles, and I'm getting beaten up. And I went to him, "I'm going to make you eat those words, bruv. I'm going to make you eat those words." And, I stuck at it. I think we'll come to this as well. The thing I love about boxing is so easily said, but at our age, that sort of youth club age, it's just so, it just solidifies your character. It encourages character. It encourages character.
Well, you're absolutely right, because we will come to that. So, just a little bit of research I did. Your amateur career, 85 contests. I had 3.
85. I think I did have 90,
Does it really? Well, so I would sack the person who did this, but I'll be sacking myself. So, I'm going to sue Wikipedia
I think I had 90.
Right, so I'm going to go with 68 wins. You're going to tell me that in those
I had 90 with 72 wins.
72 wins. 90.
Yeah.
Amateur,
yeah.
That's a lot of boxing.
Yeah, and you look at these kids nowadays, they're turning pro with not even 20, some of them. And there's so many influences as to why they're doing it. All of me in my age, we say, you should stay amateur longer. But I kind of get why kids are doing it now, because we can't tell them mentally not to have the attitude of what this generation has. I want it now.
It's very much. I go back. I remember one of mine in Oxton Square, Crown of Man against St Monica's.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
They sold tickets.
So I boxed kids from both clubs.
Right, so they sold tickets.
Yeah.
Black tie for the people near. Now, I am going to tell you, as a 12-year-old, there was 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
There was probably more like 250.
It feels like 1,000, though.
I think when you're smaller, things look... But the other thing now which makes me laugh, and I talk to people about this, I couldn't see the stage, the room, because cigar smoke and cigarettes. Yeah. Honestly, it was. They had
no consideration for us.
None whatsoever. And you couldn't. It was like bright lights, a bit like being under these lights here, bright lights. Yeah. And I was petrified. Yeah. I was absolutely petrified.
So you're breathing, and then you got smoke.
So I reckon I smoked about 1,000 cigarettes that particular night.
Yeah.
But it was character building.
Oh man, it's like
so to think that you did that. I know you look so much better looking than me, but I know you're a few years younger than me, but. It was character building.
Oh man, it's like, you know what? I used to fight a lot at school. Used to win some, lose some. But the minute I started boxing, I think I had one fight in school post starting boxing.
Well, there's two reasons for that.
Yeah.
One, the rumour had got back to school that you was boxing.
Yeah,
So they thought, well,
it does. It just has effect. It does have an effect on the bullies.
It does have.
Or kids just wanting to have a fight with it. It does have an effect. Which is so. I think that's another thing. We have to. I think we need to get boxing more in schools.
We definitely do.
I definitely feel so. And it's not about striking each other, because I'm we'll come to it as well. But I'm doing mentoring. I want to do mentoring with them.
Well, we're going to touch on that. So, you've done your amateur career.
Yeah.
Turned professional in 1988.
Yeah, October 88, just before my birthday.
You went on to become, and this is people talking to me, one of British boxing's most exciting fighters.
Would I? I think that I was.
You claimed various titles.
Yeah, I was in exciting fights, funny enough. Yeah. But you know what, Steve? I've got so many regrets. I didn't win. I was an exciting fighter, because I'm not going to let you punch me around the ring. So if you're going to get my name on your record as having a W over me, having a win, you're going to have to earn it. And
so is my research reasonable here? 33 wins?
Yeah.
8 losses?
8 losses,
one draw?
Yeah.
But 17 of your opponents
didn't see the final bell.
Knockouts.
Yeah. I could punch a bit, but now I think...
Whoa. 17, fella, 17.
Yeah, I think so. I'll be honest with you, in the early part of my career, when I first went pro with Mickey Duff, in 1980.
Mickey Duff, really?
Mickey Duff was my manager.
Oh, okay.
And it's old school, it was just
Very
old school the way he did it. It's like, I went with the other big promoter of the day. He had a guy that worked for him like an agent, but Mickey just blew me and my mum off our feet. He said, I'm going to send a car for you. Do you remember that big Italian restaurant in St John's Wood that used to be?
You're going back to a time when I was just struggling to get by. So I mean, you was a professional boxer. And
I can't remember it was, but it was a really lovely establishment, really lovely. And my mum's a fussy eater. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's it going to be like? But she really enjoyed it, so I knew it was nailed on. And he took us out. I'd met him before at his office, because he'd watched me in the London ABAs, and I won the London final, when those days they used to have it at the Royal Albert Hall.
Absolutely.
And that year to get to the final, you had to fight 5 times. Nowadays, these kids get there with 2 or 3 fights. I boxed 5 times, knocked out 4 of them. So I could punch a bit. You could say, when you talk about me punching, I wasn't a heavy puncher. I was a sharp. I wasn't a heavy puncher. I was a sharp puncher. I was something that some guys, they punch through you. I could just tap you, and not tap you, but snap at you, and it would have that effect on you. So I had a really good run, and a lot of people thought I was going to win the ABAs, and I was really wanted to win it because that was Olympic year, and I ended up, I chinned the guy at Royal Albert Hall, went up to...
Whoa, just say that again. Chinned
him.
Right, man. No, come on. I mean, that's a pretty cool statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So I chinned a guy at the Royal Albert Hall. I'm actually going there Friday to see our mate Spoonie, but
Spoonies do, yeah.
I'm not.
You know what? It is for me the most wonderful.
It's iconic.
Iconic place you could box at there. Because the way it goes up, you are literally. I would say it's like. It's half gladiatorial.
Oh, I was just going to say a gladiator.
And it's half gladiatorial, but it's half like show business, because you know that you've been there and you've watched Gladys Knight. I went there when Gladys Knight was there, man. It was just like, oh my gosh, I'm watching Gladys Knight.
But you was on the stage.
And I was on the stage, and it's crazy that I'd box there, and it's crazy because I used to work at Russell and Bromley when I first started boxing there. I worked at Russell and Bromley on Bond Street.
Lovely shoes then when you came out after boxing.
So I was at Russell and Bromley, and Frank Bruno used to come in with his wife sometimes, and he goes, I know you, and I goes, yeah, I box, and he goes, oh, Gary Logan, yeah, it's like, cool, and so I've knocked this guy out, and Frank's sitting ringside, and he's got to be, that's he goes, that's your Russell and Bromley left hook, that is. I'm like,
right, Frank. So we've only got limited time.
Yeah.
And I said to you before we started, I was excited.
Yeah.
So I've got to keep this moving because there's so many things I want to touch on.
I know.
You're still involved in boxing.
Yeah.
So tell me what you're doing in boxing today.
I'm still working professionals. I've been doing that since since I retired in 2003. I went straight into coaching and with personal training. So I'm doing it with one of my best mates in life, Adam Booth, who trained and managed David Hay, former world heavyweight champion, George Groves, Andy Lee, middleweight, former world middleweight champion. So we've got a good stable there. We've got Josh Kelly, pretty boy Josh Kelly, who's he's world number 2 by the WBO. So stay tuned. There's some things happening. We've got Felix Cash, who's going to fight for the European title on June the 22nd. That will be on DAZN.
Right.
And we've got a young heavyweight. I can't drop his name yet, but he's looking very promising. So. Yeah, and we've got Sam Amtu, who's just on the comeback. Sam won the British Super Welterweight. I coached Sam. Unfortunately, he had an eye injury, so he had to relinquish the title. But now he's on the comeback trail, so hopefully within 2 fights he'll regain his British title and go on to bigger things. So we do that.
So you're keeping busy there.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to some of the boxing things, but one of the things that you and I have touched on when we played golf, we touched on the other week on the telephone. I'm a supporter of boxing. There are lots of benefits in boxing that I'm not sure at times boxing does its best to promote itself.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about getting boxing back into schools. When I was a youngster, there wasn't boxing in schools, but sports clubs were about, and boxing was part of
massive,
that.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
And, a good friend of ours, Spoonie, I just mentioned him earlier, we come from the same council estate. There was lots of fights. There was lots of gangs.
Yeah.
We didn't have knife crime.
No.
We never had that. You get a bloody nose. You might get a split eye. Sometimes you might get some stuff nicked off you. But have we lost the community boxing situation because of, I'm going to say, woke world? Have we lost that? Because everyone seems so fearful of things. I mean, you and I know. We're both... I think we're both beneficiaries of having a few. You had a lot more than me. Boxing was good for us, wasn't it?
It was so good. It was, it just gives you so much. It gives you so much self-discipline, and it's nice to, for me, I had a lot. Like my cousin was another influence. Billy, he used spots for Fitzroy Lodge.
Yep.
Down by Lambeth Ridge, who I would go on to leave Croydon and join Fitzroy Lodge. I remember when Billy showed me a clip of him in the South London Press, and I thought, I want to do that. I want to be in the papers. And I got in the Croydon Advertiser and I started getting the South London Press.
Hackney Gazette for me.
Yeah, the more your fights went on, everything's feeding itself. You're winning or you're competing at the highest level, and you are regularly in newspaper, you are regularly in your local paper. My headmaster, just like all the other sports things, they would read out our school results, and I wasn't good enough to play football at the level where even Adam Booth was a really good footballer. Adam played for Croydon Borough as a kid, and that's where I first met him. And I remember I wasn't good enough to get picked for Croydon, so I thought I've got to find something that I love, that I'm going to do. And boxing was that, and then there was so much depth. And this is a problem where the kids are, because there isn't the depth of them coming into boxing clubs. And there are boxing institutions, but not as much as there was in my era.
Well, you make a really good point in terms of Crown Manor was a sports club.
Yeah.
But it had a boxing section.
And
it had a football section. It had a table tennis section. Yeah. And even if I was 3 bouts, lost 3. But even when you lost, when you went back into the dressing room, it wasn't a dressing room, it was part of the hall somewhere, it might be in the corridor.
Just cordoned off.
Just cordoned off.
Yeah.
Your mates were there.
Yeah.
The fact you lost, it was, Blighty, don't worry, fella.
Exactly.
He was fitter than you.
Yeah.
He was bigger.
Yeah.
But you felt, even with a loss, you felt
still part of a team.
You got some esteem, because let's be honest, we lived in a concrete jungle. There was no green fields near me.
Yeah, exactly.
there would have been boredom for me if I didn't have the sports club.
Yeah.
There would have been. I had energy. What do you do with that energy?
Do you know what, mate? I mean, you're so right with that. I mean, I by the time I started boxing, we were in Thornton Heath near Croydon. And all my family from down Bricks, they used to say to my mum and dad, "Why did you go and move up there? It looked like country." You know, it's like, because it was like, it's green, it's much more greener.
That's why my parents moved like later in life for me. But you know, I went to a school where I had a football pitch.
Yes.
On grass.
Yeah. Crazy.
And it was like, what?
Exactly. No more concrete.
We had hockey.
Yeah.
Well, a stick for me was hitting somebody with it.
Yeah.
Boxing and you made a really good point earlier. When you started boxing, you only had one fight at school. Now, I made a joke of it where, well, they knew you were boxing, but what it really did was it educated your mind to say, I've got a different way of dealing with this. Yeah,
I was actually better with my mouth, or just saying, you know what, this situation's getting a little bit, because I was in that era where kids used to come in and start cussing mums and all that, and I thought, if anyone starts on my mum, they are getting battered. So I just thought, I used to just keep myself away from it. Wherever the boys used to be in the playground, they all go, "Hey, your mum and this." I used to just walk away because
you start to actually learn.
Yeah.
And that comes from discipline.
Exactly. It was just amazing, and like, it was awful though for my mum, because my mum, like every other mum, wanted me to do everything else but boxing. She probably wanted me to go to school and be a lawyer or whatever. And when I won my first fight, my auntie was brave enough to come with me.
Mum didn't want to go.
Mum couldn't face it.
I get that.
And we came in, and those days Mum used to smoke. She was like, "What was he like? What was he like?" My auntie used to smoke. She went, "Well, mate, it's like this. He was so good that I don't think he's ever going to study again." And my mum was like, "Oh my God, what is going on?"
See how lucky you. Better looking. My mum said, well, he ain't no good at boxing.
He better study.
And even if he studied, he'd be no good. So what the fuck are we going to do with it? And she smoked as well. But listen, we're having great fun here. Yeah. But we know there's a serious tone to this. Emotional well-being. In our day, if we talked about emotional well-being, we would have got laughed at.
Shot at.
If we talked about mental well-being, there would have been people come in the straitjacket, pick you up and cart you away. We've had a few. I've been very blessed, and you've increased the blessing today. I've had some lovely professional sports people on already, more to come, that have said back in the day, sports psychology was been, what you on about?
I know. Yeah.
But we're in a better place. Yeah. But how do you deal? Because I know we have a bit of fun on the little WhatsApp group we're on about football. I know you love your golf. We'll touch on that in a minute. But how do you deal with your emotional? Because the Gary I know always seems to be, and maybe it's the boxing. How do you deal with the challenges that come past your door every day?
Oh gosh, I mean, that's a really good question. I'll be honest, if I was being brutally honest, some days I handle it really well.
Yeah. And
some days I do have a little downturn.
Okay.
I do have a downturn. But I'm fortunate enough that my wife demands that I get it out. She doesn't say, "Oh, Gary needs a bit of time on his own." She's like, "Anya, what's the problem? We need to talk. Let's get it out. You don't talk, Gary, don't talk." And because I was always used to just working out my problems myself. And my mum said that. My mum said to wife the other day, she goes, "You know the problem I made with Lisa? You know the problem I made with Gary?" She goes, "And if I wish I could have my life back with him again," she goes, "I let him grow himself up too much." She left me.
That wasn't your mum's fault. That was the same. That was our generation.
Yeah, because there's so much going on. I had to work.
You know, I never saw my dad cry.
No.
Maybe in later life, but I never saw. They didn't have a great life.
Yeah.
I mean,
men weren't allowed to.
My son, he's sitting over there. Yeah. I'm going to say audience. It sounds so much better than two men and a dog. But he's seen me cry.
Yeah. My son's seen me cry. I've seen my son cry. As adults, two adults, when we've had to have discussions, and I ring him up every day and I say to him, I love you, and I say to him, how are you?
That didn't
sound
go
a
on
bit
in
down.
our generation.
Didn't
like
go
that,
in
did
as
it?
much,
Well,
no.
we didn't have mobile phones either, but it didn't go on.
Yeah, and everybody's got their own experiences. My dad was he was a charismatic man, very charismatic, but as far as raising children, I don't think that was one of his traits. I don't think that was one of his really good traits.
Did he come into it later in life? I struggled
much
with
later.
babies.
Me and him struggled
I'm not good with
massively
babies.
through my teens. No, he was. No, you know what? It's so funny. He was better with me up until around about the ages of 9 or 10, when I became really aware of certain things I wasn't happy about, and then we didn't close that chasm of sort of ambiguity towards each other until I was probably till Alex was born. When Alex was born, that's when me and my dad got closer again. Really? And Alex was born in 97. So my dad was always around, but we just weren't as close as I saw other dads were with their kids,
Well, I think that's part of our problem. It's social media. I know this is social media, but I think now we always look at people's lives and think it's better than ours.
Yeah.
And we always think that people don't have problems. And although we're in a world where it's now more prevalent to go, well, hold on a minute, I'm struggling. But when you and I were growing up, and it's 4 or 5 years age-wise between us, not looks, mate. I mean, I can't believe you've had people hit you and you still look better looking than me. But no, it's an interesting world we're in terms of dealing with that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that your mum says that you didn't talk. And it's lovely to hear that your wife's on your case to say, talk to me.
Yeah. It's she's a great girl. She's a great girl. She's a formidable force.
Well,
that's why her and my mum get on. 2 formidable forces. My mum's 87.
I think there's some of us, particularly you, that needs looking after.
Yeah.
So
but here's the thing with my mum. My mum's like, me and Lisa said, we'll come around and see you on next Monday, Mum. She went, no, you'll have to make it Tuesday. I goes, where are you going? She goes, I'm going to the gym, aren't I? She goes, I'm off to the gym. I've got my Monday training night. She never misses it. Never misses it. 87, sharp as a tack. God's with her. And bundle of joy.
Is Dad still alive?
Unfortunately, no. Dad passed in 2016. Yeah, he passed in 2016. The big C got him, unfortunately. But he still thought he had it beaten to the end.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, sadly, I lost both my parents.
Sorry to hear that, man.
And if anyone's going through a spell at the moment where they've got parents that are ill, you've had a 50% experience in that. It breaks your heart.
Yeah, it does.
It does get better. And what you do, you start to remember all of the good things, but all of the advice.
Yeah.
The advice you got told at the time, and I'm thinking, really, Dad?
Yeah.
Really, Mum?
Yeah.
Bloody hell, did
they nailed it, didn't they?
Their tea leaves was much better than my
Yeah,
tea
they
leaves.
nailed it. They
nailed
absolutely nailed it, yeah.
So I just want to take you back to boxing. The big fights that are going on. I mentioned Highbury.
Yeah.
Royal Albert Hall.
Selhurst Park soon.
Really?
Yeah, they're doing a big one. I think June the 15th, Richard Riatpor's challenging Chris Billam-Smith for the World Cruiserweight title.
Well, that's lovely for me
it's
to hear,
definitely
because I to say I knew him would be me stretching something, but Michael Watson went to my school.
Yeah. Me and Michael bought so many bills together.
White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, that was that little spell, the three of them, Eubank, Ben, Watson.
Just
it went around.
Last great era. I think that's the last great British era.
It was just a mum reel.
Without a doubt.
He used to be, a bit like my red and white boots. He was always in red and white. Big Arsenal fan.
Big Arsenal fan. Me and him used to always go at it about that.
I get his money. What's your view on our big fights going to Saudi? And I know the big fights went on in Vegas. The big fights went on in Madison Square Garden. But what's your view? Should if and I know that you know Mr. Joshua. Joshua, I think really Fury is a big fight.
Yeah.
Should that should it be going on at Wembley, White Hart Lane, wherever it is, or is we just got to accept it's a world now, and Saudi's where the dough is, and those guys have got to fight in those venues?
And you know what? In an ideal world, those fights should always be in Britain in a stadium. But until the Saudis can cover everything, they can cover your site fee, they can cover a lot of your pay-per-view. I mean, they'll give you. I mean, they'll say, right, we'll cover the site fee. We don't want nothing else off you. You just got to help us promote the fight. You keep your percentage of the pay-per-view. You've already got that, but we'll give you that. We'll give you that bulk of the money anyway. So you get your pay-per-view on top, but we'll give you a certain agreed amount. And it is money, and a fighter's career can be over like that.
Yep.
So in the old Gary would have said, "Oh, why is it always going over there?" But they are the power brokers in boxing. So what happened same thing in the history of boxing? America, if you wanted to make it in America in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, it's New York, East Coast, New York. There weren't no Atlantic City. Then it started drifting out into the gambling casinos in Atlantic City. Then the mafia said, right, we want some of that down in Vegas, and it went to Vegas. Yeah. And that's what happened.
So we have seen it before.
Yeah, we've seen it before. It's just that we don't. Yeah, exactly. We just don't like accepting it that it's the Arabs that are doing it.
So, in a nutshell, is boxing in a good place in your mind today?
I think, like everything, it could be better. You know, me and you both love football. We both love golf. We've seen tumultuous things affect both football and affect golf in our lifetimes. And it happens. It's not always great for it. But what I would say about the whole thing that these fights aren't happening in this country, as long as people are talking about these fights, then it's good. I don't think people are talking about them as much as they should do, because AJ and Fury, I think they are probably the only two British fighters that could walk outside here.
Get spotted.
People would stop. People would stop and notice them.
But there's more.
Yeah, and I think that obviously, because we'll go back to our era, these guys were on front page, sometimes centre page, and always back page. John Conte was the Anthony Joshua of the 1970s. Yeah. Yeah, he was. There's no doubt about it. And if he'd have been able to just, as John will admit, if he could have been able to control his drinking, who knows? He could have been the greatest fighter that we ever saw. You know, a British fighter.
But you make a really good point, because I think back the names of people. I mean, we mentioned Ali and Cooper, but Magri, Stacey, Dave Boy Green,
big
Watson, Ben Eubank. It just seemed as though there was more.
But it was more because it was on terrestrial TV. Yeah, it was on terrestrial TV, in your newspapers. So the two were harmonious with one another.
There was limited exposure, so that got more of us. Whereas we've got so many different ways.
Now you've got so many ways, so many streaming channels. You know,
well, I mean, when I have 3 channels when I was a kid.
That was it. Yeah,
I think you can go out to.
Yeah, so did I. I'm BBC young enough to know. Yeah, there was no Channel 4. I was alive when Channel 4 started.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So. Yeah, like you grew up, you went dink, you didn't dink, and that's it. Yeah.
So generally speaking, if you take all that, it's in a reasonable place.
I think it's in a reasonable place. I think that it's like every sport. I mean, like you get footballers the other day saying, "Oh, we're playing too much football," and I personally think they are, because with the international breaks and it's different.
They're like racehorses.
Yeah,
it's a bit like rugby. I love rugby. It's different. I mean, back in the day, the tackles were hard, but now, I mean, I go to Quins occasionally, go to Twickenham occasionally.
I went to Twix the year.
When you hear that, these guys,
they are huge. You got to remember, when we were growing up, your winger wouldn't be more than 11 and a half stone.
I'd be just a regular scrum bloke, and I'd be.
But your winger wouldn't. Yeah, now your winger is 15, 16 stone. That's a lot, and quick. That hitting you. I mean, it's just, I went to the game where the Scots came all the way back and tied the game at Twicks. Amazing. But I remember watching the warm-up thinking, in the warm-up, these English guys are hitting each other hard.
No, that's
How can they sustain this? And consequently, they didn't.
You're still doing your bit in boxing. Mm-hmm. Have you got any other business interests that you're in?
Yeah, I've got a pet care business with my wife. I've got a pet care business called We Love Pets.
And what's that mean? What
we look after our primary business. Our primary income out of it is dog care.
Right.
So we've got lots of walkers, people that walk dogs for us, dog hosts or dog sitters. We go around their house and say a family will go away and say, well, our dog's not really comfortable with going to other people's houses. So, no problem. Like that, We're all DBS checked. We'll go in, look after your dog for a couple of nights or maybe a week. Well? Yeah, it's going quite well.
Have you been bitten yet?
No. Oh, tell a lie. Oh my gosh. Tell a lie. Just the other day, this little sod, he was
just be careful.
Charlie, he was honestly, we had him round just for a day. We had him round just for a day. Yeah, okay. Just for a day. And no, he was staying at one of our hosts' house, and she said, "Oh, Gary, something's wrong with my mum. I have to go out. I know Charlie's not good enough." So I said, "Oh, it's fine. I'll come around and get him." And he was like, "All right, Gary, how you going, mate?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm all right, Charlie." He's like, "Yeah, you're all right." So we took him round to our flat. And immediately he ran in and he just sat on the sofa. And I remember his owner saying, "Do you want the crate?" Little did I realise that he takes ownership of anything that is not his crate.
Right. And the moment you went to move him...
I went to move him and he's like... And I was like, you little soft.
Well, listen, I've got a dog, so we need to talk about that.
Yeah. What dog you got?
Well, I had 2 Labradors.
Yeah,
I've got one now,
best.
but she's getting old.
Yeah.
But I don't think she'll bite you. But if I'm going to come on to football in a minute, but if we lose at the weekend, I might instruct her to that. So
it's North London Derby week, people.
So I want to touch on that. So
we can't lose.
Well, hold on.
We can't lose. If we lose, we lose. If we win, we win.
See, I knew this was my problem and it was coming. So the good news is this is going to be a few weeks before this comes out. But I've got a little gift. Harry, could you just bring over? I've got a little gift for you because I've got my Blighty Talks Bricks mugs, which I normally have for my guests. But I've got something for you.
It's not got me a... Thank you so much.
Cheers, fella. I don't want to touch it.
Oh my!
Right, so let me just touch on this.
That's the only cup any one of us who supports Tottenham is going to kiss.
You said it, not me.
Well,
both of our clubs are in ascendancy. You know, you've had a...
Would you say that? Would you say we're in ascendancy?
Of course, your managers, you've had some great names. I think Tottenham fans can fall into the same category as West Ham fans at times, and I mean that sensibly, in terms of be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
I know you want to play in a style. You know, my dad used to go to both. I went for a period of time to both because they love their football. My dad, Arsenal fan, but when Tottenham were home, we go. I think that got changed in '71 when we'd done something you'd done in '61.
Yeah.
But I think both of our football clubs are in our ascendancy. I'm a Glasgow Rangers fan, so I'm
a Glasgow Celtic fan.
Well, there
Look
you go.
At this.
What the odds? So I was so glad when Ange came down south.
Yeah.
Because I thought it might be a test. But I do like, for you guys, what he's doing at Tottenham. I mean that. I think you're playing a much better brand of football. I think also we're on the up. You know, okay, 20 years since we won a title. I got a funny feeling if this is going to come back to bite me, if we can manage to sneak a win at the weekend, I think we could win the league.
Wow.
But what I'm saying now could come back to haunt me because people are going to say, Blighty, you lost that game, you didn't win the league, and so Tottenham stopped you winning the league.
Well, you're only 1 week away from moving out of the faltering April phase of the last 3 years. Isn't it? You're only 1 week away. So if you don't bottle it, I can't kiss.
I knew you couldn't resist. I knew you couldn't resist.
You know what it is? You know why, right? I'll tell you this, because obviously we had a chance of winning the league and we bottled it. Arsenal have had 2 prominent chances since then and have bottled it. And nobody has called them bottlers, but our bottling tag sticks.
Well, it only sticks for us winding you up. Listen, I'm with Ali McCoist. I don't like the word bottling or choking because the best of the best, and you've seen this when you're boxing people, golf, cricket, football, rugby, the best of the best are the best, and there can only be one winner.
Yeah.
Can only be one winner. I think both of our football clubs are in their ascendancy. If we don't win the league this year, it'll hurt for sure. But I think next year's our key year. Because if we don't win then in this commercial world, then we're under pressure. And it's a bit like you guys. If you guys don't make the Champions League this year, it's not the end of the world.
It's not.
But if you don't make it next year.
Next year, maybe.
I'm
torn. I can honestly say I am torn. I went through a phase of, when Harry got us into the Champions League. The only reason why I've ever wanted to be in the Champions League is that it gives you a better chance of getting a better player.
That's all it is.
That's all I've ever thought about
That's all it is.
The fact that we've not won anything sticks with me. If I could not be in the Champions League one year, but win an FA Cup or a League Cup, I'll take that every day of the week because it shows that you can fight to the end and win.
But that's a bit like going back to boxing at Atlanta, Vegas. It's all sports, commercial sports now, are following the money.
Yeah,
the Live Tour does it in golf.
Exactly.
So I am going to wish you well on the weekend, and I mean that. I'm looking forward to you abusing me on the WhatsApp group if it goes your way. And I'm going to be very silent, which I know is going to hurt you more than me sending you a text message. But
it's the silence that kills you.
And I'm looking forward to playing golf with you.
Yeah.
I know how serious you are about your golf.
I love it.
And I've said this before, professional sports people are the worst people to play golf against because you guys never give up until the last putt.
Never.
And I've seen that. It doesn't matter what sport they're in. You're just unreal. So I'm going to wish you well for the weekend.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to wish you well.
I've got a big bite in my lip with my tongue here. I'm going to shake your hand. I want to say, I knew I was excited before we started this, and I know that you and I can talk daily. You're just a lovely guy. And Gary, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure,
really
man. For you to say that, I don't think a lot. Some people. You know what? I'm like Marmite. I am like Marmite. As much as you say I'm a love, some people like me and some people don't. But either way,
I'm like Marmite. Except actually, no, I'm like where nobody likes me. So you're winning that one.
Well, I'll tell you another story of how I adapted to life, handling. See, this era of. This generation, unfortunately, they want to be liked by everybody.
Yeah,
they want it all now. Some are prepared to graft. A lot aren't. They just want it landed in their laps. That's another story for another day. But I remember when I was going through my real fighting phase at school, and I remember having a fight with a kid that I never thought I would have a fight with. I don't know why. I came home and I looked at my mum. I would have been probably about 10 years old, not even out of primary school yet. And Mum goes, "How did your day go, son?" I went, "I had another fight, Mum." She went, I goes, "Why don't people like me, Mum?" And she went, it's like this, son. You got the sort of face people are either going to love or hate, and there'll be no in between.
Is that what she said?
No in between. But you know what? That stood me in good stead. I'm telling you. I didn't care who liked me.
You're my kind of Marmite because I don't actually know. I love you. You're amazing. I'm already attached to your mum. Thank you for coming on.
Absolute pleasure, man.
Viewers, listeners, I'm going to leave you with the words of Gary Logan's mum, but particularly Gary. Life's not easy. I think we all expect it to fall in our lap. I think we do lack at times a little bit of work ethic. I think we also lack at times a little bit of humility. This man always leaves me, whether he's abusing me on WhatsApp because of football or whether I'm having a game of golf with him, he always leaves me feeling better. I've really enjoyed this podcast. It has flown. It's gone on longer than most because I've just enjoyed talking to you, mate.
I really enjoyed it.
You as listeners, mate. I'm going to leave you. Thank you, Gary. Take care. Be safe. Look forward to seeing you next time.